So we'll officially kick this off. Drupal Code of Conduct is in force right now. Everyone that doesn't want their video to be shown, you can turn it off. And we're recording, and take it away, Matt.
All right. Hey everyone, welcome to Fox Valley Drupal, where I'm going to be talking about Drupal Canvas, where the future of Drupal is here. But first, I want to give a quick notes from Avi about how DrupalCon is doing a free Drupal in a day program. Reshares on the network. This is all inside the mid-camp Slack. So if you do not have that and you're interested, message me and I'll help share them. And also there are 2 weeks left for the DrupalCon Chicago t-shirt contest. So now all the DrupalCons have a contest to design the shirt. If you got those kinds of skills, I'm turning off my video. This is just weird right here. And so if you've got those kinds of skills, go design a shirt, because I know I'd love to be able to take one of those home. All right. I guess without further ado, I'm ready to kick this off.
I think so.
All right. So with Zoom, I can't see my slide notes, so we're going to take this with a slight grain of salt in case I script what's coming up next. All right. So for those who do not know, Drupal Canvas 1.0 was released on December 4th. We originally were hoping for November 17th, because if Brian's right, that's Dreese's birthday. Then that slipped to the 24th. But we landed on the 4th of December. Hard problems are hard problems. And then we did some hard discussions about what's the trade-offs. There's a few things that were considered blockers, but we said, the risk isn't, we can handle that risk by taking a 1.0. So now Drupal Canvas 1.0 is here, which means that you can start using it, you can start building with it and experimenting with it. As a fun little note, I've run Experience Builder, well, actually, as now it is Canvas, in production for 8 months. So that whole time that don't run this in production, I was doing that. But that's because Acquia has launched Acquia Source, a SaaS powered by Drupal CMS. So it's everything you know and love about Drupal, but curated, so that way you don't have to manage any of the backend code. Any of that, you just use Canvas to build the site. We got site templates and a cool platform being built. One of my favorite parts about this, it's been what I've worked on for 2 years, is it's also an open SaaS. Dries wrote a blog post about it, so you can go find it as well. You can take it with you, so it's not like a vendor locked in. And Acquia has always been committed to contributing to Drupal, but now it has a product that literally is Drupal as a SaaS, which means they have a reason to keep contributing and building things. I mean, Drupal Canvas is one of those. Really, this product, that's where I got to build the page, some of the functionality inside Canvas. And it means that we've had a team of almost 12, 15 people working on Canvas itself and with the community. So quick plug for Acquia, because it's my job, which lets me keep building and working on open source and doing fun things. So now that I've brought that up, let's talk about what is Drupal Canvas. Because by now, maybe you're at the Drip Yard webinars, you've read a few blog posts, but I'm going to try to go from nuts to bolts. So here's a quick view of the editor using Drupal CMS with the new Mercury theme. On the left-hand side, you got these cool layers that shows where your components are and how they're nested. On the right side is a component editor that lets you modify the props for a component. Most Drupalists are going to look at this, and I've actually seen this feedback like, I hate that. It looks weird. You know what? We don't work with modern design tools. So of course it looks weird to us. If you deal with Figma or any of the new or half of the new website builders, this is what it looks like. This was designed by designers and vetted and did user testing. Is it perfect? No, there's things that we're working on, but that's how software is. So if you look at it, you're like, I don't know. Trust me, it has been designed, it has been vetted. It's not like some developer sat in the corner and just threw this thing together. So Canvas is all about building components on a page. And it gives a whole new interface to doing so. If you're used to using Layout Builder, it's like you drag blocks and you can't put a block in a block. Then you got to write custom blocks. So this kind of changes. With Canvas, it takes 3 different kinds of component sources. So there's single directory components. These were introduced in Drupal 10.2. And they're like a new cool way to do front-end development, like a Drupal developer. They're great, but then you kind of had them and I was like, what do I do with these? And you had to do a bunch of like PHP stuff and Twig stuff to get single directory components to be inside normal Drupal stuff. Great, no UI for using them. Then you had blocks like we talked about, where you could place that in structure or with layout builder. And Canvas introduced is JavaScript code components. So yes, you can write components that are actually in JavaScript and put them on a page, which means your front-end developers can be front-end developers, not Twig experts that need to know how Drupal works. And the way that works is there's these 3 component sources, and they get normalized into what are called Drupal Canvas components. So when you're working within the Canvas UI, you're dragging components to the page, but you as an editor don't go, I need this views block. It's like, oh, I just need the news listing, and you drag it over. But your end user, your content editor doesn't know if that news listing is built by a views block. Is it React code that's actually making a dynamic HTTP request? Or is it an SDC of hard-coded Lisp because you're faking it? They don't need to know because it's been abstracted through this. An important thing to note about components, because thinking about it, this is actually like thinking back, seems really simple, but also like when you really think about it, it's like, what the heck is a prop? What is a slot? That's what makes up components. Think of a prop that finds inputs that have a schema. So if you have a heading prop or heading component, the first prop is going to be text. The text is the string that makes up that information that goes in the heading. And a slot is where you can embed other components. Think of a layout, like a template. A template is a component that has different slots: sidebar, content, right sidebar. Those little regions are slots. And those are the building blocks that create these components. This is gonna be really familiar. This is my favorite part about Canvas, is that it created a new content entity type called pages for unstructured content. And I loved it because there was such an uproar and stupid amount of conversations of, well, why not just another node type? Why are we creating a new thing? Why can't we just use nodes? Can we just stop using nodes for everything? We don't need content types or that verbose structured content for a landing page. And that's kind of been like a long discussion of, how do you build a landing page in Drupal? If you ask a Drupal developer, you'll get that many Drupal developer opinions and instructions on how to build a landing page. Canvas just gives you a page. You create a page, you put stuff on it, and it's a new, great, simple concept. But it is also, again, one of those that there's a Reddit thread that I finally went down on, and the poster like actually updated, like, I don't know how to use Canvas, I don't get it. And edited was like, oh, there's pages. I don't use nodes yet. I just create pages. I can use nodes if I want, but my landing pages and pages, and it clicked. So again, a lot of it is the future of Drupal's here, and it does require a paradigm shift from being Drupal developers, Drupal content editors, to site editors, content editors. Like, well, how does the modern world work? So inside your Canvas editor, you'll on the left-hand side get a list of all your pages. Then you can drag components. Like in this example, there's a text component, and then you can modify the text on the right, which this component actually has like a font size multiplier, so that we could do like a bigger text or a smaller text. One of the great things about Canvas is you don't have to like save a draft and then go preview the changes. As you make changes, you can see them happen live inside this preview right here. So if you were to go say font size multiplier large, the text would get large and you can actually see it. That's new to Drupal. It's really cool. It's something that everybody touted with headless, like the headless previews, but Canvas has it built in. And as you make these changes, they're continuously saving in the backend. It's like autosave. Drupal's now like Word from 20 years ago. Woo! But this gives you that seamless experience that everybody's expecting. I mean, I think now, like for my kids that use a computer, what is a save icon? They don't know what a floppy disk is. Just things you just save. Now Drupal's editing experience is actually getting us to the modern age. Way to go, us. But what it lets you also do is toggle between your multiple pages and edit 10 things at once. So you don't need to edit one page, save it, and hope you don't accidentally lose it, then go to a different page. You can just have an entirely staged website with all these new changes and not have to publish them all at once. You could choose to publish some of them, or say, great, it's the end of the week, let's ship the updated site. Canvas has this concept of patterns where it lets you basically, like, let's say you designed a page and you're like, okay, I've got this hero component and I put in this button and I made the button look great. And then you realize that you've got to make that same hero component on like 3 other pages. Well, instead of writing another SDC, that's very strict because, you know, right, that's the whole point of a component library. So you can compose things. You can save it as a pattern. So essentially it creates a library of, you can drag, drop, and then drag it on there and modify it. So it gives you like a starting kit. So you can compose your own starter kits of components. So I know in a lot of fancy words, they call these like molecules or atoms. So you can just basically have your own component library of that, but create your actual page components through patterns. So that we can have a lot of disparate things. And then your content editors use your patterns, drag them on, and then they can go to town and adjust them, which means that they can build pages even faster. I know I brought up the whole like, yay, we don't need nodes, but of course, structured content is great. And that's one thing I want to start talking differently when we talk about Drupal. Nodes are content, but they're structured content. Landing pages are unstructured content because it's just content it's just text on a page, maybe some images. But the great part about nodes is that it's structured data, like an event that has a date, people, profiles, all these things are great as structured content, which is what nodes are perfect for. And this is where content templates come in and change how we design these pages. So when you go into Canvas Editor, and I also love this example because in Drupal CMS, at the time, they still ship the basic page content type. It has actually been renamed to utility page. I actually could not get Drupal CMS 2 beta running, so it's an old screenshot. They named it utility page. It's me, just get it out, but I'm not part of that. So, but you can go in here and add the template and customize it. Then you work like any other page. So that way, when somebody views an article, views an event, it actually uses the components and template that you've built inside Drupal Canvas. When you're building it, so you'll see the layers here. So we got like hero blog, place image. And then on the right, see how it's blue? We're linking fields. So this says you could hard code something like, okay, well, in the author, there's no great example here. For heading text, you could hard code like this is a blog. And then everything else can be dynamic based off of the content that's in there. So in here, I unlinked the publish on or publish by. So this shows that like when you click on a field, it'll show all the values they can link it to. So that way it knows that it's going to take the authored on date right here. And actually I was on a call today with Ballant because we're doing this like migration example. And we thought we broke Canvas when it came to doing links. Well, we had a link field on our node and we had a text field. And like, we want to put the link in the text field. Well, no, it's because there's actually a link prop in components and we were clicking the wrong fields. Like if we actually went to our link prop, it would have found us the link field data. So it does actually match that way. So like if you have a link field, it will only show, or if you have a component that says this prop should be a link, like a URL, it will actually filter down to those correct fields on your content type. Now you could say maybe there's a UX issue there. Like I know it's a link prop. Trust me, this text field will always have a link. Canvas is extremely strict about validation. So that could be kind of a, like, just let me do what I want to do. But also, if we let people just do what they want to do, we're going to get so many bugs because people do the wrong thing. So maybe some of that validation will get loosened so you can make some of those, you know, I'm going to purposely kick my toe into a table. But for now, a lot of those guardrails are up. So that way you can just use it. You might be frustrated, but it's not going to break. Our goal is really to try to make sure it doesn't break. Might it break when you use it? Sure, because it is a 1.0 and it's getting the things shook and loose. But the idea is to make it as stable of an experience as possible. And again, this whole continuous saving and selective publishing, I've got 2 pages that I modified. And then I got a call from the boss. I was like, hey, we need to make sure our blogs look different. Just editing the content. Now I got to do this. You can switch over and you could publish that change to the templates without those other pages. Or you can go in there and be like, and not tell all your content editors, stop editing the content. I have to go make changes to the template. You could go in there and you could choose to publish your one change. Now, here's what I think is really cool and really scary, and is actually how Aqua Source is powered. So Aqua Source doesn't give you any backend access. No PHP code, no custom CSS, normal ways, no Twig, but you're allowed to write and create your own code components. And that's how we make it extensible. And I think this will be one of the really cool features that expands how Drupal is used with Canvas. I know Drewnomics out of Germany, I think that's where they're at. They have Lupus, I believe, is their platform, which uses Vue.js or XJS. They've already integrated their own code component library to Canvas as a decoupled editor. This is the magic that a lot of it brings. It's like all these efforts that people have been working on in disparate ways, it's all kind of coming together. So Canvas ships with a code editor in the browser. It is a beautiful, and as somebody put, it's like the PHP module, except not running PHP, they're running JavaScript, custom JavaScript. So it has a form that lets you define props and slots, and then you can write your code, and then you get a preview. So what this example is showing, there is a prop called text size, and then using the CVA helper, it's basically like an array. It says, okay, if text size is small, add the text SM class. Because under the hood, it is using Tailwind. Despite your opinions on Tailwind, love it, hate it for the CSS, it makes things like these great. Because now you're like a really basic code editor, like a junior developer can come in, they can just, how do I do this? They go find the example React component with Tailwind, they plug it into the site, and they can start building with Drupal without knowing it's Drupal or anything about Drupal and create a beautifully designed website. And again here, select or changing, even code components. It's going into that stage workspace. You can actually nest components as well. So in this case, we have the import text, and this is a component called bigger text. So that way, I've actually hard coded the text size to be extra large. No. Nuance, would somebody actually do this? No, but the idea is to show that like you could write real components, like in a React application that is composed, you can do the same here without having to rely on a whole bunch of slots. This is a more verbose example. So we have embedded the Drupal API client, which Brian Perry helped lead and create after Pittsburgh. And it uses the SWR hook. So you can actually go fetch data from your own Drupal JSON API without any configuration. And when you fetch data, it shows you the preview in this bottom right, which blew my mind when they came up with this. I'm like, that is sweet. Because there is a new JSON API query builder module that is a graphical for GraphQL that lets you build queries. This lets you build it for JSON API. It's not as robust, but this at least lets you see the data that's coming back. So that way, with your React components, you can create these dynamic pages. And I don't have it in the roadmap later. We are working on ways to integrate with server-side rendering. Because right now, these code components are rendered in the client, which means that they're not rendered on the server, which means there might be a performance hit. There are some really interesting ways that we can add server-side rendering without actually needing Node in the server. And then we also have the Canvas CLI that allows you to develop code components locally or download them from your source, from your from your Drupal site. So I needed to upload do an example of this. So you could say npx canvas scaffold, and it will create a sample React component. And then you could do upload, and it will upload it to your Drupal site. And then you can download it, and work on it again. So your front-end developers never have to log into your Drupal site. They just need to configure OAuth, and they can work with their React components there locally. We now have a starter kit that actually has example code components. So you can start a whole new React code base that works in Drupal Canvas for building your site. And I don't have time to do a demo of this, but there is an example of taking Cursor, which is a common new like AI-based IDE, plugging it into Figma's MCP. For those who don't know MCP, it's just a fancy way of having your AI talk to another server and execute its APIs. Say, I've got this design, convert it into React components. The code components will be compliant with Canvas, and then the AI agent knows how to use the CLI to upload them. And I know I just spent last sprint coming up with GitHub Actions. So you could have a repo that is all your React code. push to the GitHub repo, and the GitHub repo uses the CLI and ships it to your Drupal site. So you get a full CI/CD of your code components to your Drupal site. I know one of the biggest issues with decoupled Drupal was always the two code bases, parallel deployments. This isn't headless Drupal, but it is a way to give you that benefit of, we have a great React team that knows how to build things. We have this Drupal site for its great content modeling, but we get that idea of like split responsibilities and skill sets without having two different applications running. So the CLI is really cool and enables some really awesome workflows that will be coming out. Again, if you're using code components. For a lot of us, I feel like it's going to be mostly SDCs, but for those organizations that have like JavaScript developers and they just want to have JavaScript developers do this, have the Drupalists just maintain the Drupal site and like not have as much overhead on the Drupal part, this will be a big unlocker, and I think will enable agencies to sell Drupal more easily. So a lot of this, we've always said, Drupal Canvas is a page builder. A lot of this went about pages and doing content templates. I don't know if a lot of people remember or saw the recording of the Dries note where Experience Builder was like, Experience Builder will eat Drupal, was what he brought up. It was like, it's going to be the new UI for everything. It's definitely not there yet. But remember, Drupal Canvas is a site building tool, not just a page builder. So building your site, there's global regions. So this whole point, we talked about a page, but what about the chroma of the website, the header, the footer? Those are called global regions. So in this page here, you can see that there's the content, but below there's the header and footer global region. So I'm going to go ahead and edit that header. Now I have this layer that lets me modify where my logo and main menus are. And that will be for any page that's rendered with Canvas. And this lets you put in those components there, and also lets you do, again, the selective publishing. So again, got content editors editing, and then it's like, hey, we've got to go update that year in our footer for the copyright because we forgot to make it dynamic. You can go in, edit the footer, edit that component, boom, ship it, and nobody else is the wiser, and everybody else keeps working as expected without doing a server deploy to modify that twig file. Although I guess maybe you'd be doing it in config export and importing the config, but either way. All right, here's the one video of a little bit of the AI. So there is the Canvas AI module. It is actually hidden. In the info file, it has hidden true because we're working things out. You can turn it on, you can work with it. I know Michael Potter has actually been doing a lot with it and kind of pushing its limits. We have been as well. There's a team in our little org around Aqua Source and Canvas that is continuing to work on this. So I'm gonna do this video. So, I can't remember what it was. I created a SaaS that generated content. And it was so cool. And I wanted to make a page in the style of a LinkedIn influencer. So the orchestrator talked to the other agents and decided to come up with a plan, and it started to do generated a title. It's working on generating the metadata on the right. And now it's populating all the content on the page with my known component library. So it knew what components I had and created me this awesome, non-hallucinating text generator that every new Fortune 500 company should use instead of LLMs. So I wanted a pricing page, and it gave me 3 columns with this. Now, is this the perfect page? No, but if you need to scaffold together an example website or build, the whole AI module in Drupal is right there and integrated with Canvas. There's more of that to come, especially since that you can only use inside Canvas, which means if you were to have an AI agent in your main Drupal site, you can't exactly talk to each other, or maybe there's a way to. And I know at Vienna, I think, is when Dries showed off like the AI context for the prompts, so that way it would be aware of things whenever you prompt. I know one thing that I heard at Evolve Digital was that WordPress.com was allowing you to put in like your brand tone and brand colors. So that way, anytime you use AI within WordPress, it would consult your brand guidelines to make sure you're adhering to it. I was like, hey, you know, it'd be great if Drupal Canvas could do. And it was like, oh, you know what? We already technically have that. Dries demoed it with the AI context. We can set all these different contexts. Just right now, Canvas AI is not plugged into it, to my knowledge. Again, big project, a lot happening. I'm on this one part, more but there's a lot of that kind of stuff coming if that does interest you. Canvas will also have extension points. So caveat, we did ship Drupal Canvas 1.0 with no public APIs, no PHP, no HTTP APIs, even though CLI uses them. There's nothing stable to extend because it's moving fast, but we wanted to at least ship something. But there are extension points you can dig in and find out how to run these. And we will have more, where on the bottom left, there is like a little puzzle piece. You open it and it shows the extension pool. I only know of the ones that we built at Acquia because we built them to dog food the experience. So Acquia Web Governance used to be called Acquia Optimize. Think of like Yoast SEO. It was an example I gave before. So like right now in Drupal, it's like you edit a node and there's probably like some weird button or widget added on the right-hand side to scan the page. But like, is it scanning the page or is it just reading your form data? Or like, do you got to go read your preview and then you scan that, but it's not really the saved content. Now you can actually launch an extension in that preview that we see when editing. That is what the content will be. And that content is available to the extension. So it can scan it. It can send it to a third-party service to be analyzed, which is what Acquia Web Governance does. Checks it for accessibility and SEO. So I bring up Yoast. Somebody could write the Yoast SEO plugin that kicks the pants off of what's even in WordPress because of the way that Canvas is allowed to work. I was talking to somebody who owns a company that basically would compete with Acquia Optimize and explained how this works. Like, oh, I didn't know Drupal could be a market for us. They're still figuring out how they could extend how they're working within WordPress, but instantly they're like, oh, Drupal could be a market for us now. That's really important to me with my history of being at Commerce Guys, well, Centauro and selling Drupal Commerce. The reason why WordPress ate the web is because people could build businesses around it that aren't just building websites. Drupal will thrive and survive if people can actually build businesses that aren't just about building websites for people, but those that sell services for people that build that. So I ran for the DA about this whole marketplace. It was like, if we want people to survive and get new entrepreneurs, we need solutions like this. So that is one reason I'm really excited about this extension. The extensions are JavaScript. There's an iframe. It talks via iframes and post message. If you've ever experimented with Atlassian's extensions or Shopify, it's the same way. Aren't there whole businesses that sell to Shopify customers inside the platform? We have now come up with a way that somebody could sell a service that's into their agencies could sell extra services. Like, oh, you built a site from us, you maintain it now, but you know what? We offer this one little cool add-on that you can access through your Canvas extensions. That's one reason I'm really excited. That kind of opens the doors in ways that we've never had inside Drupal for businesses to, do business things, provide value for their customers, and survive and grow our platform. Because at the end of the day, we want more Drupal sites because then we all get more money. Well, we all have more jobs and we can hire more people. So let's talk about the roadmap for a bit. Content editing support. So we have content templates, but one of the cool things about Panelizer, let's go back to those days, was that you could edit a node and then customize the way the node looked instead of it always being that one way. Content editing is coming, I believe. I'm not going to give a date. I know it's in our Q1 or Q1, Q2, like first half, we're working on it. So that way you could edit nodes in Drupal Canvas, but also control the layout. And one of the biggest blockers here is like that content template with the slots. We want a way for site developers, site builders to say this slot is locked. Like, no, you actually can't drag the body field out of the main area and put it in the tiny sidebar that's available because that'd be bad. So we were coming up with those kind of governance controls as well. And, there's the whole thing like, hey, how can you edit an absurd Drupal node form inside a React application? Because we are translating like Drupal form API to React widgets. I tried using the chart module and its blocks inside Canvas, and its forms are very complex and broke. So a lot of hard problems to solve, but content editing for nodes is coming. And why are we locking it down to just nodes instead of, because somebody's like, why not taxonomy terms? Let's do it well once and make sure it's a great experience. And we know Drupal that every entity type is the same thing. We can then unlock it for more. So we're going to do very great tailored experiences, nail it, and then ship it and expand it more often. The creation of forms. This one would be big for Drupal CMS. I know that's one there, is being able to use web forms inside Canvas. I think you can put a web form block inside of a Canvas page. But I think the idea is to be able to create more dynamic forms within Canvas, not go to web form, configure a bunch of stuff, go here. We're trying to stop that back and forth that you're used to. Multilingual support. This is kind of the thing at Vienna. I was like, Source is launched and we have Canvas and 1.0 coming. Like, yeah, what about translations? Okay. Multilingual is hard. If anybody's used Layout Builder, I'm sure you followed the like 100 different core issues about multilingual or whatever control about symmetrical and asymmetrical translations. We are working in a way to translate pages, global regions, and content templates. So a big part of it is the configuration bits. Pages are content. Drupal does content translation pretty well. Then you get into the argument of asymmetric versus symmetric. That nuance is beyond the scope of this call. That's more so to ring the ears of the people who catch those, but the others for the config as well. So we're doing, yeah. So that is coming. I know actually like Wim has been sitting and researching this. Better developer tooling. So advanced AI accelerated development workflows. Like what I was talking about there, I got really giddy about the CLI. And then more support for SDCs that are in development. So this is one that I know Mike has been like, hey, Matt, we changed the prop type in development and then our Canvas pages broke. Okay. Schema validation, all these like, again, we went for very strict validation to prevent things from breaking, and then we'll find ways to adapt from there. Or just how can you write an SDC that works in core, but also Canvas at the same time? So you're not writing two different ones, because that was actually an issue for images. So a few more things around that, like there's some things you can do inside core SDCs that then Canvas can't support. So we'll work on that. So that way, folks like DripYard or other companies can write SDCs that work for any version of Drupal and Canvas as well. Because again, I know people have asked, like, is Canvas going into core? Maybe. Kind of hope not. I feel like anytime something goes into core, it dies. I mean, look at views. So I think it is better to be another detour. This is why I do like the idea of Drupal CMS. It's like instead of making core really big and everything, we've agreed that composability is great again. So we can have a very specific performant Drupal core that is like the developer nerdy part. And then we have Drupal CMS, which is a site builder and end user part, and uses great tools, which means Canvas doesn't need to be in core because we're telling people to use Drupal CMS. So that's where that SDC development.
Yeah. Also have recipes and faster ways to spin up and try. So
yes.
Those we are in the future.
Yeah. No, I am very happy because another side rant. For a while, like I liked Drupal because I like to be the backend developer, but I couldn't leave Drupal for Laravel because I couldn't stand how Laravel did things, or the fact it was missing so many cool features in Drupal. For the record, our caching system, no one else has. It's really hard to beat. But then Drupal was never like, I'm for backend developers, or I'm for front. It was like, I'm going to go straight down the middle and make everybody upset. And I feel like they've finally been like, you know what? We're going to make the site building people and the end users really happy, but in such a way that lets us be really great and acknowledge that we have a great backend application platform. Or at least it's enabled people to acknowledge this and build in that way, but still make it so that way we can do the cool things for the site builders. Ending that tangent. So if you are interested, here's some resources to stay up to date, some of the useful things. There is the Drupal Canvas Slack channel on Drupal Slack. It's great for support. I think we almost hit 1,000 users now. Like once 1.0 dropped, it spiked up. So if you have support questions, drop them there. One thing that's made me excited about Drupal Canvas is remember, I may be at Acquia for 4 years now, but I've been a Drupal developer for 12. So I've had 2/3 of my time outside of Acquia. I remember the Dries announcement about the great out of the box initiative and the Octo, and they worked hard. But it's like a lot of times these initiatives that were, it seemed like backed by Acquia, or these kickstarted through their development, it's like, here, we got it 80%, it's in core, community go. Because then that team was put on the other next big initiative. And remember, we're still got like the Umami demo has things being done. Acquia this time, I feel like it's been, we're building this and the train's moving. You can jump on, jump off, but it's happening no matter what. But they've left the doors open for other teams to jump in. So like Previous Next has been a big agency that has jumped in on it, especially with the whole layout builder migration and a lot of block support. Oh, it's one thing I forgot to say.
Tell me more.
So it's not here. I'm going to go back real quick and I'm going to pretend that there's another slide here about migration from layout builder and paragraphs. It's not on the roadmap for us internally right now. It's there. There's meta issues for them. It's being worked on. Like I said, I believe Previous Next, the agency out of Australia, has been really working on it, which by the way, like Lee's been working on Canvas nonstop. And he's like well, they have a lot of great developers, but one of their great developers. And he's been doing a lot of the block work there. Aqueous Source doesn't use blocks, but he's been helping with, like, we had him help out with that stuff. So there is a migration plan to go from layout builder to Canvas. And there's a really cool one for paragraphs. And this is when I didn't even know it was planned. And somebody asked about it at Evolve Digital. And I was like, I've got this crazy idea, team. Like, it's already been thought about. I'm like, we've built a great product if I've had this crazy idea and it's actually an old idea. So in that earlier example where I showed there's component sources, there's SDCs, blocks, and code components. Paragraph types become component sources because a paragraph type has fields, which are props. And basically the entity reference to another paragraph type is like a slot, right? You're saying, I'm going to render another paragraph in here. Finding a way to translate that to components, because then you can migrate your paragraph entity reference tree into the component tree that is Canvas. There's two, if you go to the Canvas issue queue, there's a big meta. If you were to like think issue type plan and just type paragraphs or layout builder, you'll be able to find them. So the community has them on there. There's discussions, but that goes back to the Slack channel. Aqua has been driving it, but it's not like we've denied any contributions, but we have been very much like, if you want to join in, but like we do have an agenda. We're going to keep building on it, but we will work with you. And there are people who've been working in. There have been agencies that have been coming out and like doing hard problems and hard work in it because they bought and already migrated to Canvas. So if you are interested, if you hit an issue, join in this, because there's a huge community. I know there's a weekly or bi-weekly meeting, like it kicked off just now because Previous Next runs it. I don't know how many people attended. I always forget about it. But there is at least a weekly meeting, like kind of those stand-ups to sync in with people. Yeah, that's the main channel there.
If I was to follow along with that layout builder migration to Canvas, that's a good place to start.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because I don't know, I don't know what's blocking it, honestly, because I've only worked with code components. Like I finally had to go figure out how SDCs work inside Source or inside Canvas, because now we shifted our team. So I'm now like foundationally focused on a lot of Canvas things. But yeah, I couldn't tell you what's needed for blocks because it's not, I haven't needed to concern myself about it. Which also should tell you like how big the code base is. It is a very big code base. I guess I should put that as a resource in here. If you have access to an AI, like an LLM that can read code, like if you do pay for Cursor, if you pay for the Claude, like the Claude Desktop, the $20 a month, you can put that sucker inside the Canvas code base and say, hey, there's a docs folder and I have these questions, and the docs are there. They're extremely technical. And actually Adam Honig, Fina Proximia, is working on making them more user-friendly. But if you plug an LLM in there, you can ask questions like, what is a prop shape? And it will explain it to you because the docs are there. Also, if you aren't paying for an AI or you just like have qualms about running the ones on the cloud, Olama, right? Use a local open source LLM, pointing at that bad boy, and it can help you explain the concepts pretty well too. So like if you were interested in either helping out or like what's missing, I swear I had to do that too. And I had to go into this whole like prop shape stuff. And I was like, this is so hard to read. The LLM did grok it very well because of all the documentation and the code that's in it. Now, if you want to try it out, because this is the also thing where it launched and I was like, I'm going to go on Reddit because I'm going to defend this thing. But like, I don't know how to use it. It's like, yeah, if you took a vanilla Drupal site and you put Canvas on it, you're like, what do I do? Because there's no way to just like get into the editor. But if you have the new navigation module, there's a pages thing on the left-hand side that lets you create a new page. Or if you happen to know to go to /canvas, it gives you the empty editor that says you can do things. On the Drupal Canvas project page, It says try Drupal Canvas below the big green button. This is a demo that Adam has written up. That's a non-Drupal CMS demo because Drupal CMS 2 isn't ready yet, which will have Canvas. So it creates a demo for you so you can actually work with Canvas. Because a lot of times people, they install this and then there's no components. There's no blocks. Like, what are you drawing on a page? Because you don't have a theme. You don't have a component library, which again is way different than any of us are expected to work into. So of course you try it out and you go like, what is this? So the demo gives you an experience to try that out. Again, it's one, just maybe a few of these things for the 1.0 release. We could have been better if we had like a messaging team, but again, we want to focus on getting the release out because we know certain people who are building businesses are going to be tailored around this. We wanted to give them a date. Speaking of, I do want to plug DripYard. DripYard is a company started by two gentlemen that are the sole reason I am anywhere that I am today, Andy Giles and Mike Herschel. So I'm going to plug them because Andy Giles I met by submitting patches to the Commerce USPS module like 12 years ago, and he flew me to Drupal Camp Atlanta, which is my first Drupal event and where I got hooked. And also where I met Mike Herschel, and I saw them throw a water jug at each other in the hotel. I was like, I want to hang out with these guys forever. And Mike was like, hey, you know what? You're going to speak at a Drupal camp. I was like, what? And then 3 months later, I spoke at my first Drupal camp in Florida Drupal camp. So I owe my entire career to these two guys, and I love what they're doing. So DripYard builds some really kicking themes, and they've also been writing some cool blog posts. And Mike has been pushing this edge of how do I get SDCs to work for non-Canvas sites and in Canvas as well. So I recommend checking them out. I believe their themes are about like $500, which I have no idea what the WordPress land goes with, but these themes also look great. And I think they even have some coupon codes, but I mean, $500 to jumpstart your site, it's nothing out there. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to keep going and doing. So plugging them, and then their blog too. Yeah, so check out their blog. I want to plug Ballant. I love Ballant. I first worked with Ballant long ago on a Commerce Guys project. And then we were doing stuff at Aquin. I was like, I know who we to bring in. So Ballant is the technical lead for the JavaScript components. All that cool stuff about the CLI, the in-browser editor, anything like that has been his work. And he blows my mind every single day. And I'm so fortunate to work with him. So he does post some stuff on ballantbrews.com. I'm also plugging him because I know he is working on the Canvas component kit. I don't know if he's going to name it because it's CCK, and there might be some older Drupal people like CCK. That was something, yeah. But he is working on, just like DripYard selling themes, he had the same idea for like selling component kits and the component libraries, and that's something he's going to ship. So I want to plug his website because every time he does a talk, he's got stuff there. Also, if you watch the Dries note from Atlanta, you know the guy with the really cool recording that made everybody like, oh my God, who's that? That was Ballant. All right, and thanks. And if you want, any questions?
So those of you who are online with us, just open your mic up and you can talk. We'll hear you here. And I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the easiest way to get started with us, and why does it keep breaking on me? Every time I turn around, I get something. I don't know why.
Well, I would say, what's your starting point? Let's start there. Where is it like?
Stock Drupal CMS.
Stock Drupal CMS, 1 or 2?
No, 1. Actually, I got one it's a 2.x. My bleeding site is a 2.x.
I wish I could say, because I know when I did the 2.x a month ago, it worked. But when I tried it today, I literally had ECA exploding in my face. What's the errors? Is it just say like a random, like that stupid dialogue that comes in a little page?
I get a thing of errors within the Canvas editor.
Like on the right-hand side,
Yeah.
and the red
And
box
also
of
the
doom.
left-hand side.
Oh, enjoy it.
Both sides, yeah.
That's a good time for the Slack channel. So that is the best part,
I'll
like
try
taking
that.
screenshots of that, like I did this thing. I don't know why it happened. put in here. The bonus point would be if you open the network tab, because that means something, there's an error in an Ajax request. So it's say for anybody that's listening, if you do hit these issues where it's like, just want to edit, next thing you know, there's the red boxes of doom on the right side, or you get the stupid one in the middle, it's like undo last action. And you click it and it doesn't fix itself. Again, remember, we handle a lot of edge cases, but not all.
Yeah.
So whenever that happens, try to open DevTools, have the network tab open, recreate, so that way you can just see what network requests failed, because that'll just help debug it so much faster. Because a lot of times there may not be a Drupal database log. Actually, we have to merge before the next Canvas patch release. There's a merge request in AF merge because there's code that actually breaks database logging when you're using the Canvas editor. We found that out the hard way, and we have a patch, but that just was one of those nits that never got merged. So yeah, get those data network logs, because it might not actually be logging anything in database log and Watchdog to be like, oh, here was the error. So
Cool.
is there anything?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Revision history is really important to us for like compliance to know who did the what's it. Something that we do with Canvas.
Should be. Oh, I don't know what I did. Why is it on? Oh, pinwheel thing. Come on. So that wants to be done. Get.drupal.org canvas. Go to
This is
page.
the guy that has not really played around with that, but just from what you were saying about it, as all of it, you can publish and do all of them all at once. It's like,
So-
to us, that's great, but we have compliance that
Yeah.
knows who did the what's it.
So it extends editorial content base, so that you automatically get revisioning and revision logs, but it does not integrate with like content moderation right now.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So there is actually somebody opened an issue that said we attached content moderation, but there's no way to do transition states.
Yes.
And that's because the autosave manager of Canvas just doesn't support it at all. Which is the funny thing. There's an Aquia
That's a blocker for us.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm like, there's no way we can do that.
So in Aquia source, we forced all node types to have content moderation, because it's one of having a Drupal site where it's like, is it or is it not, is a horrible experience. We're just like, everything has it, it's defaulted in, but we didn't address it for pages because Canvas didn't have support for it. And I think the biggest blocker is mostly because what would that surface in the UI? Like with publishing a workspace changes, what does that mean? And it goes to the deeper conversation about the actual workspaces module. Some people believe that you don't need content moderation inside a workspace. I firmly believe you do, because you should not be able to publish a workspace until everything that's a draft in that workspace is published. But some people think that with a workspace,
You could take that back, because that, like, there's zero way we could do that, because we need to know what change was published when for compliance.
Yeah.
So.
okay. Well, you would be able to see that. It just wouldn't be the content moderation way of doing it. So if there was a change, and like when you go to the editor and you click publish, that will save a new revision
Okay.
with the timestamp. So you will have it, but you won't have it in it was in draft, but then reviewed by somebody.
Yeah.
So you'll miss that. And that could be the big, oh no, this isn't good enough. Okay.
Yep.
We'll see. I'll raise it because it is like, again, we had that as a core feature inside source for structured content, but not landing pages.
That was like a big hole that we're seeing, because we're like, what?
Yeah.
Unless I can give you a number for our new lawyers.
No, there is an issue where somebody opened it. Yeah, and like I know a lot of our stuff is also product driven development, and it's just this like with
I'm
work.
not trying to bring you down at all.
No, it's there, and it's just there's like these gaps, and someone's like, oh, but it's also like we also went for quickest value there to the initial larger market, but now at least if we can get that initial market and people testing it, then we can solve this. And the good part is there is actually an issue, but somebody tried it. Now you can get in the issue cube, like who else really needs pages to work with content moderations for compliance?
Yeah,
And then if the
let's
hard
start or see that conversation start.
Yeah.
Because that would be great.
Okay. Because like I said, there are agencies that are working on it that doesn't need to be just Aquia doing it. or individual contributors poking it. There is at least enough momentum with some people that have skin in the game for this.
Another silly question while I'm asking silly questions. Is this a whole lot of content or config? Like what?
It
what
is.
is this? What is this thing?
So pages are content, everything else is config. That's the best way to put it. So under the
when you make these templates, when you make all these things, like you're just your content people are just like choo and when they choo and they choo their foot, and then they're like help, and things like you gotta.
Yeah, so the config's not revisionable. So that would be one like, oh, I broke the footer. Well, then you're just, but what do you do if you break your footer in Wix and Shopify? Yeah, you just fix it.
So if you're a team of like,
or actually with the autosave manager, let's say they broke their footer, but they didn't publish. You check that box and you click revert. And then it undoes the change. That is one thing I didn't show in there. So like if you have a stage change, like this sucks. You just the 3 buttons on the right, discard. And it's like it never happened. But global regions, code components, all that are config, so you can use your normal config sync flow. I can't remember if there's a permission that lets you say don't allow editing the global regions or not. But yeah, you could find a way. And these are again things like, hey, we really want to lock down global regions with normal configuration sync instead of letting them just edit, instead of ignoring them. Or maybe that's the thing you want to do. Is like, you know what? We don't want to actually put the global regions in config control. We want to let them just do whatever they want. And then need to find like, well, how do we tell the get like config ignore to ignore it? Because it's like kind of in core, but not. And I hate the config split module. So like those are these, I'm excited. So I get to have these fun conversations.
Yeah, great. Just two things of what we're trying to do. We want to make them faster. We want them to be consistent.
Yeah. And
this has a lot of that potential, which is great. But at the same time, we want them to be consistent where they're safe and they're not. You know, there's definitely trust falls with content authors, and like you have the responsibility, a whole lot of paid responsibility, and they have to own that. We have to give that up. And so, you know, a lot of developers don't want to give that up. They're like, I know you're going to call me tomorrow because you broke it. It's like, well, and we know that's going to happen until they stop doing that.
And there's one. There's somebody saw this and like I would never get to my content. It was like, yeah, because you saw it with like user ID 1 with all permissions. Source, we have members, all they can do is edit pages, which means that they can drag components onto the page, but they can't edit code components. They can't edit the global CSS. They can just drag stuff on the page and modify it. So they have a much simpler UI.
You can hide like certain components so they can't touch that.
No, but somebody said that actually, somebody made a blog post about using Canvas, and it was like, oh, it replaced like 7 of my layout builder modules, and one of them was like the layout builder restrictions. So somehow they did it, which our APIs, like that listing of components, it uses the entity system. It's an entity query. It's a config one, so I don't think config entity queries may not be alterable. I cannot remember. I think that's the one quirk. Either way, it's all the patterns that we know and love that there should be a way to get in. Actually, you know what? Everything gets wrapped in access controls. Not the JSON API way where it's like, we'll show that it's here, but not accessible. No, it does an access check and removes it from the list. Hook entity access. You could write your own hook entity access, but like they don't have access to this kind of component and it won't show up in the list. I can't remember what happens if it's in the component tree in the preview and they click on it. But again, the building blocks are there. And I believe, I can't remember, somebody shared it with me. I don't know where the original post was, but they were like, one of them was like the layout builder restrictions. And they're like, I don't need this anymore.
That'd be a great, well, I was just saying, because that was important to us too. And that helps clean up that interface for those of us that are testing this out. And they're like, what is all? I don't want to touch that. Why is that in there?
I didn't have a chance to look into it today, but I was looking for the restrictions today, and I think there was a meta issue. So if I find that again about that, you know,
Couple things from the chat.
Silly questions. I figured these are.
Couple things from the chat here. First of all, Bernardo says Drip Yard's sharing insights on January 7th on the Eastern Time Zone meetup. So
Alright.
Justin, check that out. Eastern Time Zone is on the Drupal Slack. So you can find out about there. And there's a question on maybe not directly Canvas related, but do we have any Drupal modules for using Drupal node content as RAG data? Do you suggest any? Justin came back with a couple of suggestions, but
I got nothing. Drupal modules to connect. So I don't know, but I knew the note. So I've looked into this myself because for a while I did a blog post every week and I fill up that wagon. I don't know what I wrote anymore. So I wanted to put all my content into a RAG or retrieval, augment, blah, whatever it means.
yeah,
That thing that for the AIs. I looked at it and I was going to set up this like ChromoDB locally or Postgres with their vector. MariaDB now has vector support, I think.
Oh.
So if you have Maria 10.9, I'm guessing whatever the latest version is, DDEV, the fancy DDEV thing was like upgrade MariaDB and you'll get vector support. I don't know if there's a module yet, but now that MariaDB has vector support, there might be a way to have a Drupal module that takes your nodes, uses whatever PHP vectorizes your content and stores it into MariaDB. The biggest problem is you always needed a different database, which is why I was only going to do it locally. Locally, I was going to have there will also, I didn't want an LLM connecting to my database. So I was going to do it all locally with the Olama to read the vector database. So I don't know. I would check the AI channel. Is my best bet.
What Justin selected is, or suggested is the AI search module indexes whole site.
Oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
And he suggests, he was asked what DB to use. And he said he'd use Pinecone and Milvus. Yeah, so
Okay.
far, but there's others as well. So.
You know, look at me. I was being all hard about it. And there is, I forgot there is like the AI search module that, right? It plugs in the search API, right? Yeah. That's a lot smarter and easier.
Yeah.
Wow. Spent forever just talking to Gemini, coming up with a plan, trying to be all hard into super developer. As a side note, for whoever asked that, they should check out the Evolve Digital recordings on YouTube. I don't know how they can find. I think if you just go into YouTube and search Evolve Digital New York, there's going to be a video about open source LLMs that a guy from Red Hat did. Really cool. Would be related to it as a way of doing that all locally, so that you can work on it and do it on your own machine with Olama instead of having to run on, I don't know, whatever service you're doing. I'd say, is there any other questions? But my laptop is in the pinwheel of doom, so I can't open chat.
Pinwheel of doom. No other questions in the chat yet?
Cool.
So we're at 8 o'clock. We could keep it open longer. Depends on what people feel like. But I think we're getting close to the point where we'll shut off the recording. And next month in January, you want to give a little plug for what you're going to be talking about?
Sure. I'm Steve. I don't know about any of you, but did you have to use Meetup to figure out the address here? I did. I did. I signed up and used Meetup for the first time in like 15 years. Wow, was that a terrible experience? So wouldn't it be great if there's like this open source CRM that like you could do things with and store data and I don't know, contact your contacts? I know, crazy ideas, folks. So I'm going to be talking about Drupal CRM next week or next month.
Next month,
January
19th, I think. But
sometime mid-January.
check your back channel. Third Wednesday of the month. Yeah, and that'll be the Eastern or the Central Time Zone large group meeting, which is Steven's going to come here for that and present from here for the Austin host Drupal user group. So
Officially, January 21st, the 19th
Okay,
is
there we go.
Martin Luther King.
okay,
So it is that Wednesday, the third Wednesday. We're always the third Wednesday.
and February
Mario Hernandez will be talking about something front end. I don't remember the exact subject.
I think paragraphs,
Former media parent.
paragraph stuff.
February 18th, also Ash Wednesday. I got all, in case you didn't notice, I have all the holidays.
All the holidays, all the dates. Cool. All right, we're gonna stop the recording now, and but we'll stay online here if anybody is interested in asking any questions.